Hello and welcome to the Kettlebell Training Academy. This is part of our series on moving with posture. We are trying to help everybody build up the strength and the flexibility in the right areas so they can learn how to swing safely and effectively. So in part one of this series, we discussed moving with posture. We discussed variations on the deadlift. We did the traditional deadlift, we did the straight-legged deadlift, we did the one-legged deadlift, and we also started that series off with a body weight exercise called the Good Morning. In this section here, what we're going to cover is variations on the squat. Squats and deadlifts are very similar. They're not the same, but they're very similar. The biggest difference between the squat and the deadlift is where we actually hold the weight. So the true name of the exercises we're going to do today, these are called front squats. Now, when we start a front squat with the kettlebell, we're going to start with our catcher hold, the beginner's kettlebell holding stance. So, we're going to start our thumbs together, hands around the ball of the kettlebell, use our hips, swing it to our chest. Now, this is our important stance. So, I'm going to ask Candace to turn to the side so you guys can see it, the movement from the side. Now, when you hold the kettlebell in front of you, automatically it should help your chest get nice and tall, your elbows get nice and tight, and you should find that it's easier to hold a nice straight stance. The key thing that we're going to use to hold the weight here is you're going to get your hands under the weight. You're going to get the heel of your hands under the weight so it sits comfortably in your hand, but that your arms are doing as little work as possible because you're trying to get your elbows and your hips under the weight. As we go down, this is a tension exercise, so remember our exercises from the breathing where we tighten up and squeeze everything into it. So we're going to tighten up and squeeze everything into it, and we're going to squeeze ourselves down. Heels on the floor, chest nice and tall. Good, and drive ourselves back up. The more tension you get, the safer you will be. The more weight you'll be able to move, the safer you'll be able to move these movements. Notice the posture is straight on everybody. It's like they're sitting back into a chair way behind them. Things you want to look for in the mirror, pay attention. Are your knees in line with your toes? If they're not, squeeze your butt a little bit more. Imagine you're pulling your knees open. Are your heels coming off the floor? If they're not, push the kettlebell away from you just a little bit. It'll help you sit back a little bit. Good. Good. And put it down. Now we're starting to get closer to the exercise we're really moving towards, which is the swing. Now, I don't want to devalue the squat. The squat is a very, very valuable exercise, and we'll use them a lot in our training programs and our training routines. But the squat that we just did is a beginner squat, and it is designed to help you get comfortable with the weight and teach you how to move safely and effectively so you can move on to the next steps. So the next exercise we're going to do is we're going to build on that catcher squat, and we're going to do that exact same movement with one hand. When you're using kettlebells, as you start to get into it a little bit more, you will learn that almost everything we do is what we call unilateral. In other words, one side works and the other side works. Even when you have two kettlebells in your hand, they're not attached, so they'll move in their own way, shape, and form. So to build up the strength and flexibility to do this properly, we've got to start getting used to moving the weight in just one hand. So we're going to do that by using what we call a one-hand catcher squat. It is the second easiest way to hold the kettlebell for your various exercises. So we're going to start the way we did before. 2 hands on the kettlebell, thumbs together, grab the ball, hips, rock it to the chest. Good. So once we're here, now we've got to transfer that weight over to one hand. The heel of the hand is going to hold the weight. Elbow is in tight. You're going to keep that elbow in tight to your body. This again is a tension exercise. Squeeze your shoulders in, chest nice and tight, abs get tight, legs get grounded into the floor, and squeeze yourself down to the floor, pushing your butt backwards. Good. David, turn to the side so they can see a side view on that. Good. Guys ready? Go. Squeeze yourself down. Now, What you'll find as you try this movement is you'll start to see that one side of your body, keep going, has got to work harder than the other. Your abs are working harder on one side, one arm is working harder than the other. Everything else kind of stays the same. The legs being grounded, the core doing its work, there's a little bit of work on balance that you got to do, but everything else stays the same. Give me one more, guys. And rest. So, the next movement we're going to teach you is called the kettlebell front squat. Now, to do this one properly, you've got to learn how to safely get the kettlebell to your chest. Now, here's a word of caution about this exercise. When you first start out on this one, it won't feel comfortable. The fact is, Candace here has a 12 kilogram kettlebell, David has a 24 kilogram kettlebell. And for most of us, we've never really experienced the pressure of that much weight sitting on our forearm. So as you start, we recommend a pair of sweatbands around your hand. It's totally okay. Competitive kettlebell lifters wrap your wrist all the time. If gloves feel comfortable for you, it's totally okay. You use what feels comfortable. We've been doing this a while, so a lot of these things we don't need. The truth of the matter is, as you practice, you will get used to it. Your forearms will get accustomed to it. It's part of it. You can't break from the technique because you feel the pressure. Okay, you've been warned. So, now that we've got that through, let's show them how to do this here. So we're going to start by bringing the kettlebell to our right shoulder. Now the easiest way to do that is through a movement we call a two-handed clean. We're not going to get too deep into it, but what we're going to do is we're going to use one hand, put it on the kettlebell. Now notice where they grab. They don't grab the middle. They kind of grab towards the corner. We say your thumb corner goes at the corner. Good. So now they got that grip from the corner. They're going to use that second hand and reverse grip. So now they've got two hands on the kettlebell. Now I'm going to ask them to stand up nice and tall. Now they're going to use their hips, swing the kettlebell back between their legs, and swing it like they're going to put it over their shoulder. Good. All right. You only got to do that once for today. Now, what's important to know? The most important part is that your wrist stays straight. Can't show them a broken wrist. Right? When you get new, when you're new and you're trying to avoid the weight, you'll break your wrist. That's just bad for everything inside here. So you've got to keep your wrist straight as possible. Wrist stays straight as possible. The kettlebell gets nestled right in between that triangle where the bicep and the forearm meet. So it's comfortably in there. It's okay if you notice naturally both of them kind of shifted their hips under the weight. That's part of it. Your body is smart. It knows that this is where the weight is. This is how you hold it. This is kind of how you would hold a baby too. When they're heavy, you'll kind of hold. So we're going to let our big muscles work. Now as we get into the squatting, we'll straighten ourselves out. But when you're holding the weight, it's okay. We're dealing with two hands. So you can do this, support it with one hand. Or if it was really heavy, you could support with the other hand over here. Got the hands on the wall, right? So there's various ways to support that other weight. Eventually, you've got to let go of that other hand, and you've got to let that other hand kind of hang free. Good. All right, so now let's practice our squat. Tension, chest tall, back nice and straight, squeeze into the abs. We're going to squeeze ourselves down into that movement. Good. And drive it up. Candace is showing you how to do it with one hand. She just got to squeeze and use that hand, keep that wrist nice and straight. David is showing you how to do it with two hands, using that second hand to support. Heels are grounded, chest nice and tall, pushing that butt back. Perfect posture. This is how you do a kettlebell front squat. Good. And put it down using your deadlift. Excellent. Take a break.